Folks, thanks for coming on the line with us today. We appreciate you joining us. My name's John Dubas with Premier Marketing, and we have a crew with us today to run over some data we have on how you can cross-sell a Premier portfolio of products. So we're going to be rolling through a bunch of information. It should take right around 45 minutes to an hour, and we appreciate you investing that time with us. The presentation is being recorded, and the PowerPoint of the presentation, along with the link to the recording as the webinar is being recorded, will be sent to all who have RSVP'd to today's presentation. If you'll note in the GoToWebinar software, there is a section there for questions. We ask that you use that. We mute the lines simply to minimize background noise and static, and normally we do cover most of the questions through the course of the presentation. We'll check at the end to make certain that we cover everything we can for you as well, and make certain that the follow-up you receive have answers to the presentation itself. What we'll do as an administrative starting point is give you a bit of background about Premier. Most of the folks that are on the line are familiar with us, but we're going to level set here a bit. We are a national marketing organization founded in 1968. That's part of the Integrity Marketing Platform. We have offices across the country, and we act as an insurance wholesaler, providing insurance services, working directly with independent agents and agencies to deliver the products that our target market has a need for and that we can offer to them. These contracts are available at the highest possible commission levels, with recruiting contracts available to those who qualify. As I mentioned, being founded in 1968, that means we recently celebrated a milestone in our history, our 50th anniversary, which is quite an accomplishment for what began as a small family agency in rural Nebraska that's grown into one of the largest marketing organizations in the insurance industry, and we're really proud of that accomplishment, and thank you for your work in obtaining that. We do so through a full insurance portfolio, including Medicare programs that include Medicare Advantage and Medicare Supplement plans, in addition to the Part D prescription drug programs, the standalone PDP programs. But we also offer a full portfolio of life insurance and annuity products, final expense life insurance and Preneed plans, along with long-term and short-term care products and disability income plans. We also offer ancillary benefits, including programs to help with dental, vision, and hearing, critical illness and cancer, and hospital indemnity needs. Today's presentation, however, will give you an overview of all those products, and we'll speak of how an involvement in one of the segments helps you sell other products throughout the portfolio that can help both your prospects and clients, but also you and your agency to create additional revenue streams and help you with filling the needs of your prospects and clients. To kind of level set on a big portion of the Medicare world, we have to look at the overall breadth of that opportunity. And you don't come on a presentation today without hearing someone like me go on about the aging of the baby boomers, the silver tsunami, a person turning 65 every 10 seconds, 10,000 people a month. But if you look at that as an opportunity based on age, we're not giving a clear picture of what all is involved, because there is a segment of the population, about 10 to 12% of it, that don't immediately access their Medicare benefits when they turn 65 for one reason or another, but they pick up those benefits later in their life. The important part for us, however, is the opportunity that we have to serve about a sixth of the Medicare population that aren't included in that coverage because of their age. You have a large portion of the Medicare market that are actually accessing their benefits through medical disability, and that really adds to the overall need for us as agents to serve that population with a diverse portfolio of products to handle folks that have some challenges in their lives with their health. 2/3 of that population of Medicare have 3+ chronic conditions, and they have some challenges with their pocketbook as well, where half of them have a median income 2 years later than what this graphic is showing, of about $26,200 in limited savings. So having a product portfolio that can help them properly budget for their needs is very helpful to them and to us as well. In the Medicare Advantage space, we offer all the national carriers and a number of the strong regional carriers to help you become successful in that space. And the same opportunity and philosophy carries over into the PDP portfolio, where the national carriers are available to you to serve your population with our organization. When we look at that population, the Medicare Advantage, the prescription drug program, the Medicare Supplement people, there are a number of natural ways that we can use to not only explain the programs that are available in that space, but what original Medicare does and does not cover. And by doing so, we offer an opportunity to speak to other products. We have to make certain that we do so compliantly, but we'll address that in just a second as well. Because if you pull out the Medicare Bible, so to speak, the Medicare and You, there is a page in it, page 49, that discusses what is not covered by Part A and Part B, and this really sets up an opportunity to discuss other products within your portfolio. It mentions the fact that most dental care is not covered by original Medicare, nor are eye exams related to prescribing glasses. Dentures aren't covered, cosmetic surgery, massage therapy, routine physical exams, acupuncture, hearing aids and exams, long and short-term care, and concierge care, where you see a number of providers in the community, doctors, primary care doctors specifically, that have dropped out of regular insurance payment systems and are basically doing so on an agreement with the beneficiary. They don't claim against original Medicare, and they pay that doctor as a concierge service. That also gives us an opportunity to use some of the regulation that's placed upon us through MIPA, through the legislation that regulates a lot of what we can say and do, by using the scope of appointment form not only as a way to fulfill an obligation, but also a way to set up discussions on additional products. This is a generic form, this one provided by United Healthcare. There are other ones out there that will add a couple of other categories as well. But when someone visits a beneficiary to speak about Medicare Advantage and PDP programs, you all are aware of the fact that this form needs to be completed before that discussion can take place. So it lays out the discussion not only on the health programs and the drug plans, but it also gives us an avenue to discuss the dental hearing and vision products and the hospital indemnity programs. It gives us a great way of prepping a conversation and using a regulation to extend our conversation and make certain that we visit about the products that we offer that handle some of the shortfall on the basic medical coverage. We also provide a tool that not only provides you quoting ability, and this tool is available to our contracted agents without cost, but it also has programs within it that not only reach out for the individual to get that scope of appointment electronically and store it within a software package for the required 10-year period that NIPA asks of us, but also keep in mind that that form has to be completed for a Medicare discussion with those products, whether we sell them or not. So it gives us a way of going back to folks, as long as we have the permission to call, and discussing products down the road as well. When you look at this breadth of products within this particular tool, you'll notice that it is all basically health programs, save one, and that's the final expense life quote piece. Yanni Laborde is going to talk to us about the final expense later on in the presentation. But this, however, using this quoting tool live with an individual gives us the opportunity to prep for that conversation. That is the lone product that can't be discussed under the auspices of that scope of appointment. It does require the 48-hour cooling off program before you can go into specific detail on it, but it sets up that discussion and allows you then to continue and deepen your relationship with your prospects and clients. It also allows us to use that Medicare Advantage piece to fill in the gaps. So if you go into the Medicare Advantage portion of this software, pick out a carrier and highlight it, you'll notice that it has a piece in here that says fill the gaps. And what this allows us to do is then, if we have a discussion with someone that doesn't have a special election period to change their coverage now, or are happy with their coverage now and don't want to change that coverage, it allows us to pull up a software package and fill in those gaps for the hospital daily copays with a HIP program, a hospital indemnity plan, that gives us an opportunity to solidify their coverage and create a sale for us across the board. So it's a really neat way of electronically delivering a presentation that speaks to an additional sale in a household. One of the things that we strongly recommend that you do as well with any of your clients is do a simple fact finder. There are a number of them that you can extend this basic coverage on to make certain that you can discuss the needs within their life insurance, be it traditional life insurance or the final expense component. But there are also fact finders out there that will enable you to speak to the need for long-term or short-term care coverage as well. And by doing a basic fact find and discovering what programs they do have, how old they are, and what they don't have, gives us an opportunity to visit back with them once again on those programs. Since if you're going out on a Medicare health program in the Medicare Advantage arena, you can't discuss those programs on that initial appointment, as I mentioned, without a 48-hour cooling off period. This gives you direction as to what to speak to in the future when you set those additional appointments before leaving your initial appointment and hopefully sale with the Medicare Advantage or PDP product. And then, of course, there's the whole, what we lovingly refer to as the Columbo close. And this is that lovely piece of when you're leaving, you get to about the door, you scratch your head, you turn around and look at them lovingly and say, and oh, just one more thing. Who do you have your cancer coverage with? Or have you prepared for a long-term care situation? Or what are you doing to take care of your final expenses? So it's a number of things that you can do quite casually that may extend that appointment, or because of the question that you're posing, it may require an additional conversation, but it gives you then the opportunity to gather the information you need to make a strong presentation for those programs anyway. A great way of coming back to it. You'll see some of these pictures a number of times through today's presentation because they can apply in the other areas as well. When we look at the Medicare Supplement portfolio, Medicare Supplements are regulated differently than the Medicare Advantage and PDP programs, and you're not required to have that special scope of appointment beforehand. Some of the generics do include it on it, and you can speak to it as it is a Medicare health product and part of that original conversation. But this gives you greater latitude when you speak to Medicare Supplement programs, and hence using that tool that we have discussed a little bit earlier of pulling out the Medicare Bible and describing the fact that there are other things that aren't covered with original Medicare that preps that conversation and reinforces it as well, as does a scope of appointment that includes the Medicare Supplement as part of it. Even in this circumstance, if you go out with this scope of appointment with these products listed and there's not a med sup there, and you engage in a conversation with your prospect or client, and they say, well, I don't want to be limited by a network. That gives you an opportunity to make certain that you can then complete a valid scope to discuss that if it's not included on the original, and proceed with that presentation. You then, of course, have Peter Falk and his Columbo lovely rain jacket to do that just one more thing question on the way out the door as well. You also have within that portion of the Medicare health arena tools made available to you by different carriers offering those products as well. Most of the carriers now have electronic tools that they strenuously ask that we use because it really simplifies the system in the long run. But there are different components then that allow you the opportunity to use their software. And if that company offers as part of their portfolio some of the other products that you look to offer, it gives you a way to include that in a singular application and a one-time close for multiple products with completing basically the information for just one application. And it sends it into the multiple products because it may ask additional questions, obviously, in areas that require more underwriting or other pieces that come into play. Cigna has a great piece on that. Medico with their My Enroller program is really awesome. Aetna's Quote and Enroll is really simple to use as well, as are other Medicare Supplement portfolios out there that offer much the same tools. But keep in mind, if you're going out there on a Medicare Supplement appointment, this gives you the latitude to cross-sell just by using the software system in there, and basically very non-Herb Tarlicky, like you don't open your plaid jacket and say, hey, you want to buy a watch. It gives you the opportunity to speak to the promptings of the software system and saying, well, hey, who has your cancer policy? Or do you have final expense program in place for you? What's your life insurance like? What are long-term care programs you have in play? Because the Medicare Supplement is regulated differently, you have the opportunity to speak to other programs that are not specifically health insurance related. Now, obviously, you can't roll off of that if you're going in with a Medicare Advantage or PDP program subject to that scope of appointment, because remember, you don't have to have a scope of appointment for the Med Sup, but it gives you an opportunity depending upon how you're walking through the door and what premise you're using for that. When you look at those ancillary products, the portfolio programs that we offer, of course, do handle all the named carriers in each of those categories. And many of these programs also offer you software packages that are carrier specific that allow you to cross-sell based on their systems by the carrier. But going back to that quote engine one more time, it gives you the opportunity to use it specifically for hospital indemnity to fill in the gaps and use it for dental, vision, and hearing as well. One of the things that CSG has done recently within the last couple of weeks is also offer the electronic application process for ancillary products as well. They have it in play for much of the Medicare supplement programs. This, however, they're layering in that additional convenience for us to use an electronic app on the ancillary services, these ancillary products as well. Again, referencing the part of Medicare and You, that page 49, it says what Medicare, original Medicare does and doesn't cover. It gives you reinforcement from the almighty government that these programs are necessary to fill their needs because traditional Medicare doesn't take care of them. Once again, you can go in there to the software system for this to take care of that, fill the gaps piece, and then speak to different dental programs. The dental program doesn't offer that same sort of slick cross-selling opportunity by using the software, but it's not too hard to bring up, hey, do you have a need for a dental program? Statistically, these carriers are telling us that you'll make a sale half the time just by asking if they have a dental program. When I was in the field, we had a lot of luck with, the dental writers that we offered on different programs. And every now and then you get the person who has the same temperament as John Dubas with his smart alecky way of approaching things sometimes that will say, hey, and they reach out in their mouth and you pull out their dentures. Here's my dentures. I don't really need dental. When's the last time you had them relined, sir? So there are ways of working it. Using that cross-selling tool of the scope of appointment, particularly in the Medicare Advantage space, gives you the way of introducing that discussion because you're going to complete all those boxes and make certain that you go through and address all those needs. Once again, by the way, who do you have your cancer policy with? Have you ever entertained having a heart attack stroke policy? June is the National Month for Aphasia, one of the side effects of strokes where it limits a person's ability to speak. And a lot of times, if you've ever had a family member that falls into that circumstance, the folks that have experienced that, much as when they experience burying a parent or someone else, it opens the door for the discussion on final expense and life insurance, or having a parent in a nursing home really brings out the long and short-term care discussion. It's one of those things that you can just casually mention and engage in another discussion. Repetition here, but it's the software systems that can help you do that. When we look into the long-term care space and short-term care space, this is one of the areas where you're actually going to have the privilege of me shutting up and turning the presentation over to Katie Novotny to discuss some of the programs that we have available in that space. We'll discuss some of the cross-selling opportunities in just a second as well. But Katie, would you tell us a little bit about some of these carriers and how you feel some of them work well in a cross-selling situation?
Sure. Thanks so much, John. I think, as you'll see, there's a lot of different options with the long-term care. One thing that we have seen is the traditional long-term care has really evolved. We still have the traditional long-term care, still having the tax-qualified benefits, and still the old policies that we have all known and loved. However, we also see the LTC hybrids, and those are attached to the annuities and the life insurance. This will allow for cross-selling when it comes down to people that maybe have existing life insurance. Do they have some cash value? We could 1035, maybe put a down payment on their long-term care plan. We also can see some underwriting concessions. We also, with the hybrids, we can offer a cash indemnity policy, and that is something that we lost in the traditional LTC arena a couple years ago, and it is really nice to see that as one of the benefits for the hybrid. Another reason we've seen long-term care is people may not have the length of, or need the length of care that they were purchasing. Therefore, we have the long-term care alternative product, or what we would call short-term care. This will provide for up to a year's worth of coverage, both comprehensive and home care only. We see a lot of people, and especially when they're cross-selling in the Medicare arena, that will look to these products. We have one that is a guaranteed issue product, and we also have one that has a day one prescription drug program with as little as 3 questions on the application. With these, we can do them with and without inflation. And also, we were discussing previously the other opportunities you have, such as hospital indemnity, dental, vision, cancer policies. These are also riders that we can include to some of these products. Most of our short-term care products have an additional rider, such as hospital indemnity, maybe ambulance rider, something like that. So, and we also have some critical illness and accident riders available as well. So this is where I would go back and look at my clients. If we have somebody that maybe is starting to plan a little older, maybe the short-term care would meet their budget. Maybe they've had some underwriting issues in the past. This would open some opportunities there as well. You could go back and say, remember that long-term care we applied for in 2010? We've got a product that might fit your needs now. So that's where I would start on these products. Also, you talked about fact finders. We here at Premier have a fact finder specific to long-term care solutions. This also can open up some doors for the need for a standalone dental vision policy or something like that. But that is something that I would be more than willing to send out to anyone. It allows us to kind of get a good look under the hood. We can see what's going on health-wise and see what actual opportunities would be there for cross-selling in the future.
Katie, when you look at this portfolio, which of these carriers support electronic submission of apps, and how does that work?
I would say the large majority of them do. After this little incident of COVID-19, we're really seeing the push towards e-apps. In fact, I will tell you, I was on the phone with GTL just yesterday, and they are only taking, for short-term care, they are only taking the e-app. That's the way they're preferring. Not that they won't make some exceptions, but we're having a lot of carriers really push towards doing e-app submission, which then allows for phone sales, Zoom sales, if you will, glance. I don't care how you want to do it, but it's allowing us to all keep our social distance while still continuing our business.
Awesome. When you look at these carriers too, as you mentioned, there's quite a selection of them. If you were to recommend to an agent that hasn't been engaged in this area, what would you recommend as a starting point with carriers?
Sure. I think first and foremost is asking the question. You don't need to be certified. You don't need to be anything, just to ask the question to your clients. What plan do you have in place? Usually, or what would happen if something catastrophic occurred? Then we can start looking at product. I think first and foremost, though, is that fact finder. Let's find out if it's even an option. There's many times where clients will call me saying, we have old life insurance they're looking to convert. Maybe we're looking at a long-term care policy because their neighbor had one. Once they come back with that fact finder, we might transition to a different product simply for the fact that the list of medications tells us everything we need to know. We don't want to put the client or the agent through any unnecessary steps. So I would say the pre-qualifying form, or the fact finder, if you will, I would start there first and foremost.
Is there a substantial difference between the licensing or certification or whatever comes into play between long-term care and short-term care?
Absolutely, absolutely. Long-term care requires, for most states, an 8-hour partnership training, which is an 8-hour long-term care partnership, which is an asset protection program regulated by the state. They will require them to have an 8-hour certification. Once they receive that certification, there is it's usually 2 years, or within their continuing ed period, they'll have to do an additional 4 hours. So a lot of us are used to maybe the annual certification, or maybe on the other side with annuities, it's a one-time deal. Well, with long-term care, it's actually going to coincide with your CE cycle. So what you would do is you'd take your original 8 and then do a 4-hour refresher course, usually every 2 years. And that, of course, is based on the state. The other thing to note, too, is the LTC hybrids. If we have a life insurance component, we will ask, certain carriers will ask for AML. With the annuity, of course, we're going to ask for the annuity certification along with the long-term care certification. So there is a variation. Truly, the easiest transition product would be the short-term care when it comes to the education, because as long as you have a health license, you can sell this product.
So a lot of the folks that are on the call that may be involved more heavily in the Medicare space, one of the things we typically offer is an acronym definition guide. And I think most folks will recognize AML and what it stands for with anti-money laundering. But how do people fulfill that requirement for AML?
Most commonly, we can either get you hooked up with a carrier that would provide a LIMRA training, or some of the carriers actually have their own personalized product training with an AML component. So if that is a question, I would absolutely love to answer the question on a state-by-state basis and based on the carrier. Because we would hate to have somebody go out and take the additional education if they're not going to need it in the long run.
So, okay, that answers that. But then that means that there are life insurance policies that have long-term care riders as well? That's a question
Correct.
being posed.
Sure, absolutely. So the difference between the two is the hybrid policy is going to be an acceleration of your death benefit for the need of long-term care services. That is the same definition as the long-term care rider. Okay, that's exactly what that is. However, what makes it a hybrid is once you spend down your death benefit, the carrier will continue to pay your long-term care needs as you need them, even though your money or your death benefit is gone. So what we call the extension rider. If it offers the extension rider, that is what it allows it to be a hybrid and not a long-term care rider itself.
Awesome.
Both extremely effective. Go ahead. I'm sorry, John.
Yeah, that's okay. I remember back in my Prudential days when they rolled out the living benefits in '85, what a big deal that was. And Prudential stole it from a Canadian company at the time, but that's a big deal for the general population. Would that 8-hour certification count for across the country, or does that have to be specific? Is there a bigger requirement in some states?
So basically what would happen, sure, most states, besides we have the original states of the partnership. So if they have their own partnership, for example, California does, they have specific training. Other states will require additional training. North Carolina is one. You have to have a special line on your license. But most states, as a general rule, will take that 8-hour training. They consider it reciprocal to another state, as long as they have matching partnership programs. And this is something where, like I said, it's really individualized. If anyone, would say, hey, I'm from Michigan, for example, I can go out and send them the actual write-up of what is needed, where their training would be reciprocal, and then also how their continuing education in the future would just keep them valid in the state of Michigan. So that's where I know it's a vague answer, but truly it is specified to the state in which they reside.
Okay, awesome. Anything else you want to add in this area?
No, I think I would welcome any calls. Like I said, I believe that if we could do some more fact finding, and I would recommend anybody to try it, even just a short-term care policy. And once you see the ease of the business, once we do the fact finder, it is a great way to do some supplemental coverage for your clients. It's providing a great service, and it is also nice to have that additional sale.
Okay. So when we look at this portfolio, like in other areas, just because a carrier and a product is listed here, it doesn't necessarily mean that's available in every state, correct?
Correct. Any state availability charts, in fact, I would be happy to send those out. We can send you a state availability chart, because specifically short-term care is a difficult product to get approved in certain states. Off the top of my head, New York, California, and Florida, we have no product there. Massachusetts as well. So that might be something where we would look at a hybrid, a long-term care rider, or a traditional policy when you have a client inquiring that also resides in those states.
Awesome. So to reinforce what you mentioned before, that's more of a one-off conversation based on a particular area, target area for an agent and the needs in that case then.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, thank you, Katie. As we look at some of the ways that you can cross-sell or bring up this discussion, if you're going out on a Medicare lead and this is a part of the conversation that comes up, obviously using the Medicare and You book and page 49 speaks specifically to that, where long-term care is not provided under that space. And it's amazing how a lot of agents assume that it is. I've been on a couple of chat rooms here lately where seasoned agents in the Medicare space didn't know that either. So I think it's one of the areas of having some of these tools to reinforce that discussion is very helpful for you. When we look at the life insurance portfolio, we're not going to spend as much time on the general life insurance as we normally would, simply because if you look at this page in single premium life and term life, and you roll into guaranteed universal life and indexed life, and different types of first die, second die, whole life products, it's a very, very large portfolio of products. And to go into some of that in greater detail, that necessarily, I think, is a webinar all on its own, or a discussion and presentation all on our own. But you'll note in this first page, when we look at indexed universal life, there are products here that are starred that give us a reinforcement of what Katie's just told us, where they may have riders available to include that long-term care portion of it. So don't rush to try to take notes on these pages because you're going to get this presentation anyway, both the recording and the PDF of it. But this gives you an idea of the breadth of product that's available to you. And much as what Katie referred to earlier, a lot of the contracting situation here is dependent upon that general discussion with you and the fact finder that comes out to make certain that we have a suggestion or a recommendation to you that fits your situation, and as importantly, or even more importantly, that of your prospect and client. So you look at these different spaces, we see a large number of folks to visit with and with specific programs. The first to die and second to die policy are generally a single life insurance product that is insuring two people, a husband and wife, and it gives a flexibility with some of the underwriting on that and is very helpful in estate planning. And then, of course, some of the challenges we have with some people that want just the death coverage in term life, or they want to pay it up in a single premium to either vest that product singularly or actually use it as more of an investment product in the long term, can be very helpful to you. And then, of course, the traditional whole life products, the internal percentage of return on the investment, if you factor out some of the death benefit costs that are in it, particularly in today's society or today's environment where they're basically paying you to borrow money, the return on investment within a life insurance program, in addition to being either tax deferred or tax privileged, I should put it, can make a big difference in the success in selling those products. We finally get to a section here where we're going to ask Mr. Yanni Laborde to give us a little bit of detail on some of the portfolio that's available in the final expense area, and then we'll discuss some of the ways that you can further cross-sell that. So, Yanni, if you would.
Yeah, thank you, John. Yes, Yanni Laborde here on the final expense team. Generally speaking, when you're talking about cross-selling opportunities, Medicare Advantage, supplements, final expense really goes hand in hand with those clients that you're meeting with every day. What we recommend here, generally speaking, is a pretty well-rounded portfolio for final expense. Final expense can really be broken into 3, maybe even 4 sort of product classifications. First and foremost, what's typically used is a simplified issue. Generally speaking, you're talking anywhere from maybe 5 to 10 health questions. No medical examinations or fluid testing is required for that. It's just as simple as, again, answering those health questions. For those who may have some significant health issues who wouldn't qualify there, we would then want to transition over to our guarantee issue carriers. We've got a few different options there. And then, of course, single premium is one that's commonly overlooked. Now, single premium actually sort of has 2 categories, if you will. Traditional simplified issue single premium products, and then you also have Preneed. The key difference there is with Preneed products, you were generally working through or directly for a funeral home. Depending on your state, that may require additional licensing. However, our single premium product that we typically use for a majority of our cases here would be through National Guardian Life. When you're looking at the clients that you're visiting with every day, again, what you're doing on the health side, final expense smoothly fits into those conversations. Again, what you're trying to do here is address a guaranteed life event. 100% of your prospects are going to pass away. 100% of your clients are going to utilize these products at some point in time. And the way that I explain that is either they are going to choose not to do anything and pass that burden onto the family, in which case they'll just go directly to the funeral home. You'll choose to do it for pennies on the dollar today when it's going to be its absolute cheapest. And they'll do that either through your competition, or directly with the funeral home. And so again, this is going to be taken care of. It's just a matter of how cost effective is your client going to be in doing it today, and are they going to do it through you? And it can be as simple as just bringing up that conversation. As John had mentioned, there are a number of ways that you can kind of bring that into the daily conversations that you're having. Much like Columbo with that, oh, by the way, have you addressed your final expenses? We do have a great ebook actually entitled The One Question Presentation, and it's a hard-hitting question, but as advisors, I feel it's our job to kind of ask those tough questions, because we are there to put the right products in the hands of those clients to help protect their family, and especially on the hardest day of their lives. And it can be a tough hitting question like, if you were to die today, how would your family pay for that funeral? Allowing them the time to list, explain, what their plan is, if anything. That's going to alone give you a lot of information to work with. Do they have an existing life insurance plan? Katie had mentioned 1035 exchanges. So there might be an opportunity there to save them money while still saving that cash value, or inputting a brand new product because they may not have taken the time to address those things. With the simplified issue products, generally speaking, we can cover anybody from age 0 all the way up to age 89, simplified issue. Our guarantee issue products will generally cover anyone from age 40 up to age 85. And our single premium products will allow you to cover anybody from ages 0 to 99. So with the right combination of products, regardless of an individual's health, from age 0 to 99, we have the right portfolio for you to be able to cover any health issue that you may come across for any age group that might come across your way as well.
Awesome. One of the things we see in the Medicare space, particularly with an emphasis that's being placed on a special needs plan, a dual special needs plan, by more and more carriers offering it in more and more space, is to qualify that individual for that product. And a key component of that qualification process not only is the monthly income, but their assets, and they have to pass an assets test. Some folks will use a life insurance product to transfer some of those assets into a life product. And is that then the final expense simplified issue single premium program, Yanni, or what would we be looking for there?
Excellent question. Yeah, so that would be that National Guardian Life single premium product. And there's been a number of instances in which that comes up for an agent. In speaking with a client, I don't want to put myself in the weeds or speak out of turn here, but in some of the cases that I've helped agents on, the client's trying to qualify for Medicaid or some other benefit. They have an old, life insurance policy. That cash value is being looked at as an asset. Obviously, you don't want to, burn all of that up. So they're, of course, depending on the state regulations that you might be in, up to $15,000 can be immediately protected. So we can kind of tuck that away and ensure that, hey, that money's going to be there for the family. And then, of course, if there is opportunities to introduce other products, we can do that through perhaps a simplified issue or a guarantee issue, depending on their health.
Awesome. When we look at what is a pretty formidable portfolio of products, I'm certain much as what Katie mentioned or we briefly talked about in the general life portfolio, there are probably some products that may be favorites or easier as starting points for an agent to become involved in this space. Is that much as what we discussed before an individual conversation, or are there products here that you feel have particular strengths that need to be mentioned, or what do you think?
Yeah, well, first, that's an excellent point. A final expense application or products in general can kind of be broken into how the processing is done. So, of course, a lot of carriers, especially with COVID, have been adding on, the e-application with some sort of digital signature. You have, of course, total telephonic voice signature processes, and then, of course, the traditional paper apps. In terms of a personal favorite, I really like the Aetna CVS Ascendo product that's recently come out here. I'm not too familiar with some of the other products you would mention in terms of the ability to sort of cross-market into some of those other ancillary products all within one sort of application process. I am familiar with the new CVS product that's come out here, and they couldn't make it any easier for you. So that alone, if you're familiar with selling with Aetna, you're familiar with that platform, that right there could not make your life any easier when it comes to actually getting into the final expense space. For your clients who maybe not are tech savvy, not comfortable with an e-signature, we do have, of course, the voice authorization products. Maybe if you're not comfortable with an e-application or meeting with people face-to-face, that could be a really good opportunity for you as well. Assurant and Liberty Bankers have excellent voice authorization processes. For guaranteed issue, Gerber and Great Western seem to be great fan favorites. Great Western is one of the very few, and maybe even the only, now that I think about it, guarantee issue products that are available for individuals between the ages of 40 all the way up to age 80 with up to $40,000 in benefit. So as I mentioned, the right combination of products, health will not be an issue for you, nor will age. We can certainly service anyone that you might be sitting down with.
Awesome. So I imagine, and I've had the pleasure of listening to you explain to agents and other individuals over the phone some of the advantages of some of the programs back and forth is why I asked that question. But I imagine that in many circumstances, there may be some of these products that are not available in all states, hence the conversation one-on-one is helpful.
Yeah. I mean, the hardest state to operate in terms of, product availability is always going to be New York. We can, help anyone in any state to varying degrees. Of course, you always want to have those calls on an individual basis and even case by case, because again, certain health issues may be presented, and because of the carrier limitation in that state, we might not be able to help them to the extent that we might want to. But yeah, definitely feel free to give me a call, reach out to me via email or via the telephone, and we'll find a solution for you. Yeah.
Okay, and so your contact information and Katie's as well will be part of the follow-up that we send. But you mentioned more of a tele experience in some sales where agents may not have been as comfortable with that as in the past, but there are folks that regularly use kind of a call center approach for final expense, and that would then predicate products that would obviously accommodate that space, I would imagine.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If you're selling remotely, which a lot of agents have been transitioning into, the biggest issue that they've actually come up with is, I've spoken with this client that they're very interested, but they don't have an active email address. And so having some of those complete telephonic application processes is great. Of course, we've narrowed down the number of carriers that we can work with at that point significantly, but we do have those options for them. And even what I like about that Aetna product that we recently launched here is that, there's a security question that can be input there in lieu of having a traditional e-signature done. So that's also a nice feature. And then, of course, with as I keep mentioning again and again, with the right combination of products, we'll have a solution. So whether you're doing these presentations face-to-face or completely over the phone, if you're just an individual agent working out of your home office, or if you're part of a larger agency that is more of a call center atmosphere, we can certainly accommodate you.
So for an agent that's just getting involved in final expense, would you recommend that they have at least a carrier in each of the categories, or how would someone start intelligently offering these products?
Excellent question. So what I recommend doing for an agent who may not be familiar with final expense is, one, you don't need all of these carriers to be successful. Some of my top agents, they may have a lot of these carriers over their career, and then they might only ultimately end up using just 2 or 3. I do recommend having at least 2 simplified issue products, and we would balance those out based on underwriting, where some might be stronger in one area, but weaker in one. Hey, we'd have a carrier that would balance that out. I do recommend having at least 1, if not 2, guaranteed issue. The guaranteed issue, in terms of having 1 or 2, would really depend on the age of the individual that you come across. And then, of course, the single premium product through National Guardian Life, you don't necessarily have to have that immediately available, but it is important for you to just be aware of its existence. So you might not have to have it contracted immediately, but it is good to kind of know that, hey, if that opportunity comes up somehow in a conversation, that you'll be ready for it. The one thing that I do want to make clear, though, is, especially if you're working over the phone or if you prefer e-applications, writing numbers are required prior to actually getting access to a lot of those agent portal tools. So you do want to make sure that you reach out, that we have your contracting documents completed and that writing numbers have been issued so we can actually get you in there and successfully selling.
Katie mentioned in the long-term care space a specific requirement of certification beforehand, and then obviously in the Medicare Advantage space, there's that certification process each and every year. And so the contracting process for some of those products may be a little longer than some people expect sometimes. What is the contracting process like in the final expense arena? Is it drawn out? Is it pretty quick? How does that handle? Is that handled?
That's an excellent question. So typically you can get a writing number from the day of contracting within about 7 to 10 business days. Depending on your state, and depending on the carrier, those have been drawn out a little bit longer due to COVID. But for the most part, if you submitted contracting on Monday of this week, I should be able to have a writing number for you by Monday the following week. Even without a writing number, there's a lot that you and I could do on an individual basis to kind of make sure that you understand the product, the process, video conference calls, trainings like this, very similarly with a screen share where I can walk you through screen by screen, page by page, everything that you need to know to be successful. So when that opportunity comes and that writing number has been issued, you'll be ready to go.
Awesome. And I'll throw this out there as the one exception to your recommendation on some of the contracting pieces. If you have an agent in the Medicare space that's active in that dual beneficiary area and you want to be able to secure assets in a life product, that would require that need for that National Guardian Life final expense simplified issue.
Yes. Yeah. And with that, that is obviously there are pre-appointment states, and we can take those on a carrier by carrier and state by state basis. With them and with paper applications in general, they are of course all just in time. So if you are meeting with people face to face, that obviously will speed up your ability to start writing. But with that National Guardian Life product, no additional or specialty licensing would be required as long as you're life licensed. However, you do want to keep in mind if by chance you are interested in, SPIA products or Preneed specifically, you do want to make sure that you check with the state or give us a call and let us know, and we'll be able to tell you if special licensing would be required for Preneed products.
Awesome. So that kind of rolls us into some of the unique marketing programs that you have in play in the final expense arena with the Legacy Safeguard program and the postseason game plan through Legacy Safeguard as well. Those are programs I'll ask you to kind of give an overview on, but that would probably require contracting with specific carriers to accommodate that tool as well?
Yes, great question. So with Legacy Safeguard, one does need to be is required to be contracted through us or through one of our agencies, either United of Omaha, Transamerica, or National Guardian Life. You don't have to have all three, but you would have to have one of those licenses with us. Legacy Safeguard was created, as a turnkey sales and marketing system. In short, think of it somewhat like as a coin, if you will. On one side, you have an end-of-life planning and legacy planning service that you as an agent can offer to your clients completely free of cost. And then on the other side of that coin, again, it is a turnkey sales and marketing system designed to help you start that conversation about final expense and to provide you with the tools necessary to promote and market that aspect of your business.
Awesome. I have a particular affection for that program simply because of personal occurrences. When my father passed, he had everything planned out, written on paper. He set a lot of that in place for my mother. We always thought that she would predecease Dad because of some of the health circumstances, but he, as in many cases with a caregiver, predeceased her, and she never completed some of the tools he put in place for that because she became affected by aphasia and had multiple strokes, so she couldn't even sign anything and she couldn't speak. And so it caused a rift in our family by having the pre-planning process not come in play, and that made a huge difference. And that's why I hold that program in such a big regard. As we come into the Medicare arena that we're entering into now, where many of the carriers are already revealing 2021 benefits, making folks aware of the postseason game plan and gathering some information and using that as we pass that open election period is a very crucial planning tool for offering final expense thereafter. And so it's one of the things that we'll probably be able to supply a little bit of information on to help prep Medicare agents in that space as well. There'll be pieces we can provide perhaps then, Yanni?
Yeah, that's correct. So we've got everything laid out for you, from social media posts to client pre-approach letters. I mean, really, we've taken out all the stops with regards to giving you the tools to start these conversations. And of course, during the enrollment period, you want to follow whatever rules and regulations there may be. But as soon as that cooling off period has been opened up and you're able to start visiting with those clients and discussing some of the other needs in terms of life insurance, ancillary products, final expense, we want to make that as easy for you as possible. And with the postseason game plan and the additional marketing tools that we've created, Legacy Safeguard, the social media posts, I feel like any agent who's in the health market that is not currently offering final expense is truly doing themselves a disservice, and even their clients a disservice. You know, again, there's a really big opportunity for agents and clients out there for everyone to be protected on and ensuring that, you know what, on that, you know, again, like you would mention, you know, the hardest day of your family's life, that last bastion of hope, you know, where you can finally protect your family one last time with the final expense policy is pivotal, and you definitely have the tools with Premier to do that.
And when you speak of different marketing tools that are available, this one coincides pretty closely with the Medicare piece, with some of the cross-selling things that we've already spoke of, but I really am impressed by the unique and effective referral process that's part of those programs as well. I think that's a really cool piece to add to that whole system. So as we roll
absolutely.
along,
I couldn't agree.
Yeah. Yep. I'm sorry. And I think there's some different things we can provide on a limited basis as part of the follow-up, perhaps there with a discussion to get that referral tool in play as well, along with some of the call scripts and the other things you guys have set up in this space. I really think they're really incredibly effective. So when we roll into the annuity arena, we have a large selection, once again, of product there as well. And I think this is very much an area like what Katie discussed and what Yanni reinforced, is the fact that we need to speak on a one-on-one basis based on the market that you're seeing as to a referral of different types of products that are available to you. But we've recently introduced a resource center that we will get you additional information on as well that helps you in the selling of the annuity products. And we were having a little discussion before the presentation began with the fact that, you know, with the rate that's out there for people to borrow money, they're almost paying you to borrow money. Having some funds set aside for the future, as we should all plan to do, being able to properly direct people in that area to different choices that are pertinent to their situation, this tool will be very helpful in the use of that as well. And obviously pinpointing some of the different pieces that come into play with, well, how do you find out? Well, that basic fact finder is there for you, and we can help in the long run after that. Some of the reasons why we would ask you to consider Premier in the overall portfolio space is some of the additional assistance that we can offer you. If you are an agent with an agency that is actively recruiting additional individuals for this chosen profession of ours, we have a program in play that will help you if you're recruiting salespeople and getting them licensed, getting them up to snuff and getting licensed and be helpful to you. We also can help you contract with multiple carriers through the Insurance Bay program that allows you to set up an agent profile and store your information in there, answering all the questions that are common on the different contracting applications and auto-filling, electronically contracting with multiple carriers. This can be very helpful. There are circumstances where, well, obviously not all carriers accept this system. Many do, but it's a great storehouse for you regardless, and it gives you the opportunity to contract with multiple carriers without having to go through multiple pages of individual contracts, making certain that you initial every page, don't miss that sort of thing, and come into play, and it speeds up the process as well. We also help you by providing discounted errors and omissions coverage to qualified agent. What makes you a qualified agent? Well, it's a contract with Premier, and it enables you then to cover your financial backside in a manner of speaking, regardless of whom you're contracting with for a particular program. We realize that as an independent agent, you have multiple organizations offering you contracts. It's not all that common where an agent will put all of their contracts with a single marketing organization. And to be honest, I don't know of anybody that carries all products. So if you take and consider this program, it covers you regardless of who that upline is. And it's a nice variation from some of the organizations out there that may add you to their blanket E&O for the products that you contract with for them or certain products. But keep in mind, you still got to protect yourself with everything else. This covers you regardless of whom you contract with and for even variable products. You don't see that often for E&O coverages anymore. We also help you keep that license in play by offering a bundled continuing education programs through our association with WebCE at discounted prices. We also give you the opportunity to add to your own benefit package as an independent agent. You have to do it yourself. This gives you an opportunity to pick up DI coverage on a modified guarantee issue basis at discounted rates where you share in the commission and you protect your own ability to generate income as well. Much as where today's presentation is being recorded, we have a library of previous programs that are out there for you. I keep a singular library with these programs available in a one-shot page. It's a rather lengthy 18 or 19-page document now, but these are also stored on our website at premiersmi.com and on our YouTube page as well. So they're available for you 24/7. As we referenced before, too, you have access to the quoting tool through CSG with its variable components at no cost to you, in that opportunity to quote multiple programs and cross-sell. And we offer a similar program on a different basis, I should say, that didn't make any sense, for the Medicare Advantage and PDP programs, too, through our Medicare Center program. This, too, is available to you without cost as part of a contracted agent relationship with our organization. It also acts as a modified CRM for you and gives you an opportunity to compare MA and PDP programs up to 3 carriers side by side compliantly. It also has that e-scope function, and it will store those e-scopes for you for that 10-year period as well. So it gives you 3 different ways of enrolling people, either face-to-face, through a microsite that's set up specifically for you, or remotely through an email type of arrangement. We spoke earlier of the marketing support that comes into play for you on final expense. And because there are so many programs out there, sometimes it's difficult to make certain you're getting everything you're entitled to by your sale of these products. We have a place on our website that gives you a single point of reference for the carrier trips and the carrier incentives. What's nice about those programs is they also help you qualify for Premier's Producer Convention as well. It's handled annually. Keep in mind, because Medicare Advantage and PDP programs, the compensation is set by the government. They don't apply to these sorts of incentives. MedSups do. The rest of the portfolio pretty much as well. This last year, our trip was going to be a cruise from Miami to the Bahamas, but that lovely COVID-19 kind of put a kibosh on that. We'll have additional information for you in the near future. Some of the things I think that can make us unique for you in support is if you are a friend of Ma Bell and you like to cold call, we can help you with contact lists available at a a minimal cost or no cost at all, depending upon your contracting situation with us. where we can custom design a call list for you, butt it up against do not call, and make it available to you. But for those who like to own their key market, we also have different community-based marketing programs, retail marketing. Hell, the Walmart program's already out there looking for people to man Walmarts across the country. This is pretty much limited to a Medicare Advantage and PDP opportunity with some Med Sup opportunity because it's benefiting Walmart, of course. But that gives you also an opportunity to establish your presence in an area, and that's ongoing now. So watch for the communications that's going back and forth on that. And even if you don't want to play with Walmart because they ask for a multiple carrier contracting situation where you have to have more than one carrier, you have the carriers themselves that have retail programs in many instances, and that is coming available in about 2 or 3 weeks, the details on those. Faith-based opportunities is a way to take advantage of different centers of influence in the community by offering either camps to visit with people one-on-one in different faith-based organizations or doing seminar selling. There's a nice listing of different products that you can offer, including the Legacy Safeguard program for final expense, different programs out there to address Social Security, a ton of different programs we have in play for Medicare Advantage plans. You can do, obviously, educational type of pieces that come into play for long and short-term care programs, or the difference of and those circumstances, and we can make that available to you. We also have programs that help you be effective with the providers that deliver the care for the programs you're selling. So doctors, specialists, and hospitals, but also dentists and other places that deliver upon the care that we're discussing. So if you're looking at some kind of assisted living opportunities, because those are places you can go to with those same sort of programs, but also speak to long and short-term care and final expense, some different things that come into play there too. We see carriers also generate prospects for our agents. You see that more commonly with the Medicare Advantage programs. The D-SNP carriers love to talk to you. They have co-op opportunities, different marketing campaigns that come into play. That is one of those circumstances where you have best luck there if you're scratching their back as you're getting yours scratched by them as well. So keep that in mind, but that is something that we can discuss with you. We have different internet lead programs that are available to you. We'll discuss in greater detail in just a second. But we also have direct mail support that's based on production. And it's important to note that we don't want to put all our eggs in one basket. You'll want to diversify that actual approach. We actually did a webinar last week on owning an area of a target area for you to work in. So if you have brick and mortar offices and you concentrate on one area, how can you combine programs that make it work? So I've mentioned the custom calling list that's available to you. Keep in mind they aren't exclusive, because I imagine those carriers or those vendors are selling that list repeatedly. But keep in mind, even if you bought it and it was exclusive for one carrier or for one vendor, there's a whole bunch of vendors out there calling people that other people are as well. And keep in mind that not all the programs allow for cold calling. We've discussed the community-based programs and the retail marketing pieces that come into play, the faith-based opportunities. These are some of the presentations that are available to you to do on either a webinar. Many folks are doing Zoom and some of the other pieces that are out there, or as we get back into the community, doing things on a seminar selling basis. Different pieces can come into play, and it's important to note that some of the charitable bequest programs that are out there, you have to have a carrier that supports that. So there are different things that come into play, and it helps influence that portfolio selection as well. We spoke of the provider marketing piece that come into play, and keep in mind that gives us an opportunity not just to speak to providers that are within a network, but also those that aren't part of a network and look to protect their patient base as well. That carrier support, keep in mind that sometimes it feels like we're begging, but carriers do support people throughout the year based on some business plans and dollars that are available. Because of Premier's size and our relationship with the carriers, it's actually a good thing for us because we have influence in that space. And then, of course, that direct mail piece that I mentioned based on productivity. This is in the Medicare arena, where based on 10 applications, you get a deep discount on the cost of those mailing programs through our preferred vendors. We use preferred vendors, and there's a number of them, but we do so in order to protect you because we want to make certain the letters that are going out are compliant for the space. And sometimes the vendors, and I don't mean this wrong either, but they kind of cut corners in order to bump up the response, and we want to make certain that we protect you as well. These are the lead vendors for the health product that I've been mentioning. So there are 4 vendors at present. We've added a 5th, America's Recommended Mailers. So you have a variety of folks that you can use. We've seen a lot of folks have great success with lead concepts in the dual special needs space. So that's something to consider. We have a great relationship with each of these vendors, but that one really stands behind some of what they say they do. The Legacy Safeguard program actually gives you some idea on how much mail you need to kick out based on pure mathematics for the responses that you need and the dollars that come into play by investing that in your business and in yourself. Final Expense does offer their own listing of preferred vendors as well, so that's important to make use of. And we are offering a new program too that is basically a cost per lead off of a mail program for one of our platform partners that may be more palatable for you in the Final Expense or Med-Sup space. When we speak of the internet and some of the things that come into play there, there's a big piece that comes out for Facebook leads. Yanni is a leader in that area of this particular program. He has a great explanation of this program itself, and we're going to link that explanation that's recorded for you as part of it, because I've already blathered on past the hour, but it'll get you some information on those. Been very successful in Final Expense, and we're just getting good data on that in the Medicare space. So we speak of all these different programs as a outreach to you as to our plea for your business. We realize you have different options available to you in different segments of our industry, and we want your business, and so we're asking for it. We want to make certain that you have every opportunity to be successful and grow your business and take care of yourself and your family and your loved ones in addition to your prospects and clients. So we want to make certain that that comes into play. And that's a decision on your part. Once you make that decision of including these different components in your personal marketing program, we need to do, as John Wayne said in the Cowboys, get up and do it because we're burning daylight. So we'll send out some of the follow-up to this and then look forward to discussions with you to visit with you about the opportunities you have in those different spaces within our industry. You can reach out to us as well for additional information through our toll-free number at 1-800-365-8208 or through our website at premiersmi.com. Keep in mind, we will be sending out the follow-up to this, and we'll be reaching out to you to answer any questions or ascertain your interest in the different product spaces. So you'll get correspondence from us, and then, of course, different communication in the different areas of expertise, and we appreciate that opportunity to discuss those programs with you. So that being said, I'm going to check for any questions that we didn't cover. Luis, we got to get you a bunch of different information. I'm certain this is an area in many cases that requires more of a one-on-one conversation for areas of need, and we'll look to fulfill that obligation to you as soon as possible. So all that said, we realize your time is your most valuable asset. I appreciate your involvement and the investment of your time in today's webinar. I appreciate Yanni and Katie coming on and gifting us with their expertise in their different areas, and look forward for you to discuss those with them as well. And until that comes about, we're going to wish you good selling. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you soon.